Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name is Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. I hope everybody had a really great Christmas who celebrates Christmas, and I hope that everyone's having a nice relaxing time and just enjoying the festiveness still. It's been a really long time since I've done a wrap up and a HRCYED update, which is the hardest feeding challenge you'll ever do, in case you're unfamiliar with that, created by Cordy. And I haven't actually filmed a video for a few weeks just because December's just busy and I know everyone's spending a lot of time like watching Vlogmas and stuff like that. So I just had a little break and now I'm back. I'm going to record my wrap up and HRCYED update today, and then upcoming we will have my best books of the year and my best booktubers of the year as well. So stay tuned for those. So I am going to tell you about the 9 books that I read so far in December. I think I'm probably going to finish another 3 before the end of the month, but I didn't want to make this wrap up even longer, so they will be carried over to the next HRCYED update that I do. So without further ado, the first book I have to talk about is this beautiful yellow book, We All Want Impossible Things by Newman. This book is a very sad book and it made me cry a lot. I read Sandwich by Newman earlier this year and actually maybe last year, and really enjoyed it. It was really good. And this was in one of the little free libraries, and so I picked it up and read it. And we are following 2 childhood best friends called Edie and Ash. Edie has been diagnosed with ovarian cancer and she's terminally ill in a hospice. And her best friend Ash is supporting her through her last time. And there are other family members around, like Edie's brother, Edie's husband, Ash's family as well. And Edie has a child who is quite young, and he is not coming to the hospice because she doesn't want him to remember her being really unwell. And it's a mixture of some memories of them growing up and their adolescence and stuff like that together, with how the other people in Edie's life are coping, and also just what it's like to have times where it's happy and people are enjoying each other's company and stuff, mixed with this devastating sadness that Ash is losing her best friend, and the author lost her best friend to cancer. And so I'm guessing that a lot of the experiences in this book are based on her own experiences as well. I thought that this book would have me laughing at times because I heard that it wasn't like too sad, but I would say that it is very, very sad. I cried, like tears rolling down my face, crying when I was coming towards the end of the book. When Edie dies, I was just, literally crying a lot. And so I think it's quite a small book and it's not hard to read at all, but I think you have to be prepared when you go into this one. So for my HRCYED prompts, I'm going to use this one for the yellow square of the rainbow challenge, because you couldn't not use this as your yellow book. There is no more yellow book out there. So that takes me up to 5 out of 10 for my rainbow challenge. And then I'm also going to use this book for the garage sale square. So I haven't started that one yet. So this is my first of the 3. Garage sale just encompasses basically a book that you got secondhand, and this one, like I said, was from the little free library. So I'm counting this as 1 out of 3 for the garage sale prompt. Then I have a non-fiction book. This one has been on my shelf for a really long time, and it is The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. It's a small book. It's quite compact, and inside, as you can see, it's like not kind of full text. I did a combination of reading and listening to this one. So I saw that it was available from the library, and so I listened to quite a bit. The audiobook's kind of unusual because there's a lot of quotes in there and there's some kind of music put in there, and it's read a bit like a meditation. My daughter thought I was listening to a meditation when I was reading this, and I said no, it is a book. So it's a bit of a different experience listening to the audio, but we've had this book for absolutely years. I think it's my husband's actually, but I really am interested in reading stuff about manifestation at the moment, and that's why I decided to pick this book up. There were some bits in here that I found really useful, really helpful, And there were also some bits which I thought are potentially even dangerous, because there were things about health in here, like there were some stories about people who had recovered from things they weren't expected to recover from, like injuries and stuff like that, which is great and inspirational. But there was kind of a message that if you just believe you can get better from anything, you can get better from anything. And I don't think that's like a safe message to put out into the world, because it also means for people who aren't getting better from things, is it telling them that you just didn't want it enough, which isn't true. And I just don't feel that that's a good message to put out into the world. There were other chapters which I think were really useful, like chapters on money and attitude and relationships and stuff like that. And I thought that they were helpful, particularly the money chapter I found really helpful. But I just felt that I couldn't give this a star rating, because some parts of this book were really helpful for me, and some parts of the book, like I just mentioned, I thought actually no, you shouldn't say that kind of thing. So I do think with books that are in the sort of self-help genre, you need to take what resonates for you. And I think that's something I've learned from reading a lot of self-help books over the years. Take what resonates with you and leave anything else. Don't beat yourself up about it if other things don't resonate with you. That's fine. So I didn't actually give this a star rating, but for the purposes of HRCYED, I am going to use this for Brown in the Rainbow Challenge. So that takes me up to 6 out of 10 for the Rainbow Challenge. And I'm also using it for the Alphabet Challenge for the letter S, which takes me up to 18 out of the 26 for the Alphabet Challenge. Book number 3 is one that I have on my Kindle. I was really in the mood for some fantasy, and so I decided to just pick a fantasy that I have on my Kindle, and I picked Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. So this is the first book in a series called The Bound and the Broken, and I think at the moment there's 4 full-length novels out, and there are some novellas as well. I think there's a book 5 planned possibly for next year. The books get longer and longer. I didn't realise, like, this book was about 450, 500 pages, I think, 500-ish. But some of the subsequent books get up to 1,000 pages, which I was a bit like, oh, when I saw that. Although when you are reading it as an ebook, it doesn't seem as long, because you can't see how thick the book is. So this is a high fantasy story. It is about 3 guys. So Cahill is our main protagonist, and his 2 best friends, Dan and Rist. And they live in a village, and it feels sort of kind of medieval sort of times. And they have to go on something called the Proving. So the young men go on this thing called the Proving, where they have to go out into the woods, and they have to, whoever wins the Proving kills something and brings the pelt home, and whoever kills the biggest thing wins. Don't like that idea particularly. And they end up encountering something in the forest that they were not expecting to encounter. And then when they come back from the Proving, and they are having sort of the big village party celebration, then some trouble comes to their village, and it changes their lives forever, and they end up having to go on this unexpected adventure, Cahill being the sort of the chosen one in this adventure. And I found that at times it was a bit confusing, because there were a lot of characters who had very similar names. There was a big cast of characters, but Ryan Cahill's website is amazing, and he's got character summaries of all the characters, artwork for the characters. Like, it's really, really comprehensive. So that was helpful till I got used to them all. I thought that it could have been a little bit more pacey at times. There were a bit of times where it sort of didn't flow quite as quickly as I wanted it to. But I still enjoyed it, and I do intend on carrying on with the series. And I think this was his debut, so I'm guessing as well things like pacing issues and things will sort of improve as the series goes on. So for this series, I am going to use this for the letter R, which takes me to 19 out of 26. And I'm also going to use it as the colour black on the Rainbow Challenge. So I'm really making good progress with the Rainbow Challenge, and this has now gone up to 7 out of 10. Following that, carrying on with my fantasy mood, I decided to read the next one in the Court of Thorn and Roses series. This is book 3. This is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Another big chunker. And I again did a mixture of reading and listening for this because it was available as an audiobook from the library. I can't remember what I rated the other 2 books, but I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I had left too big a gap between book 2 and book 3, which I always do, but I found a good summary online of book 2, so I sort of refreshed my memory by reading the summary and then going into book 3, and I soon picked up because I soon remembered stuff from book 2. So we're still following, I'm not going to give spoilers obviously, although most people have probably read this series by now, but we're still following Feyre and her love story. Not going to say who with, just in case you haven't read any of the series, and the found family that she has as they sort of go on more adventures and try and defend their kingdom, and good versus evil, those kind of tropes, as well as like a lot of romance and spice. And this is a really enjoyable series, a really sort of escapist series, and I have just enjoyed the whole thing really. I think book 1 was my least favourite. Book 2 and book 3 I have definitely enjoyed quite a lot, and I've got now, there's the novella which comes after this, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and then the last book, which is down there, A Court of Silver Flame. So I've got just 2 books left, and one of them is a novella. So we're making progress on the series, which I always like to see because I'm not that good at making progress on series. So yes, so this one, I have used it again for the Rainbow Challenge for pink, because why not? And I have also used it for a square which I've now finished, which is By the Hundreds. That's very exciting. This book was just over 700 pages. I think it was like 703 or something like that. So this book has finished my By the Hundreds square. I can tick off another square on my board, and that's just so satisfying when you've finished, you have a completed board, and then you can tick off the whole square. So ACOTAR has done me a favour there. Following that, I had another audiobook, which I bought quite a long time ago and I just hadn't yet listened to. And this is called The Uncomfortable Truth About Racism by John Barnes. John Barnes, if you don't know who he is a professional footballer. He's retired now. He was born in Jamaica, and when he was a teenager, he came to Britain, and he's represented England in international football. And I can't remember, I'm not really a football fan, I can't remember what team he played for, which is really bad. But he was a really famous footballer anyhow. He is quite an academic person. He said he reads a lot, and he said he doesn't really ever read fiction. He mainly reads non-fiction about topics that interest him. And you can tell from his writing and from the references and stuff that he gives in the book that he is very much into his research and reading a lot about topics which are of interest to him. This book was really, really good about racism. So John Barnes has said that he's experienced a lot of racism throughout his life and his football career. But he says for him personally, it hasn't affected him because he feels that he's very secure in who he is. He grew up in quite an educated, middle-class family in Jamaica, and his parents always instilled this kind of high sense of worth in him. So he said for him personally, he didn't find the racism that he experienced affected his confidence or made him angry and upset or anything. He just said that he just didn't really care. But he's certainly not saying that that's the case for other people who've experienced racism. He's saying that's his experience. And he does this really, really deep dive into why racism has occurred and realistically what we can do to progress and to get out of racism, because he talks like there's certainly, this whole book isn't about football, but he does have a chapter on racism in football, which is quite prevalent. And he talks about the strategies that have been suggested to eliminate racism in football. And he talks about why he doesn't think they would work. But he also talks about issues that aren't widely discussed because I think people are afraid of saying the wrong thing. And it's such a delicate topic to talk about But he's really not afraid of tackling anything, and he just dives straight into really difficult topics, and he just says what he thinks. He also talks a lot about education and privilege within the Black community, and he talks about how a lot of things are about famous, wealthy Black people rather than helping the poorer Black people. And he talks about like so many different topics. I don't feel like I'm really doing the book particular justice, but all I can say is it's a very nuanced book which covers really tricky topics to talk about in a very unafraid way, and I found that was just really interesting. So I really thought this was a great book, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's quite a short book. I think the audio is about 5 hours long. I used this one to finish my non-fiction subgenre square, so it's another square that I can tick off, which is great. So this was used for a book about race, and so now I have finished the square. I've done 5 different subgenres of non-fiction, so I can change colour on the board. And the other one I used it for is U for uncomfortable, which takes me up to 20 out of 26 for the alphabet challenge. Following on from that, I did a buddy read with lovely Jenny, who hosts the Bookcast Club podcast, which I will link in the description box, and which you should go and listen to or watch on YouTube if you don't already, because it's a fabulous book podcast. So we buddy read Flawless by Elsie Silver, which is the first in the Chestnut Springs series, and this is a very popular romance book about cowboys. So we are following, it has a bit of a dodgy premise. Like, me and Jenny found this quite funny. So Rhett is our star bull rider. He is famous in his, I don't know if it's just in his like state or if he's famous in like all of America, I'm not sure, but he's a famous bull rider. He's coming to the age where he should probably think about retiring, but he still loves what he does. He has 2 brothers and his dad who he lives with. His mum died, so he lives in this like very male household, but the others are nice in the household. And he has sponsors, which is how he funds, you know, a lot of his career. And one of the sponsors is milk, and he is filmed unawares saying how he hates milk and it's disgusting, and he doesn't want to like have anything to do with like consuming milk. And because this then gets out, the sponsor is really upset, and he's kind of ruining his career. And Jenny and I thought that that was quite hilarious as a premise for a book. Somebody who doesn't like milk. Don't know where that idea came from, but anyhow. And so his career is in trouble. He gets like harassed by this journalist. He punches this journalist. Things aren't going well for him. And his agent basically says, you need a minder to come in and make sure you're behaving yourself. And he suggests his daughter could be the minder. And so he sends his daughter, who works for his company, who's called Summer, to go and basically babysit Rhett. Again, we found this shaky ground for a premise. And the dad's like, he's a real womanizer. Don't become, they call them buckle bunnies. Don't become a buckle bunny. And she's like, don't worry, Dad, I won't. But obviously she does. So like it's kind of a forbidden romance. Rhett immediately like fancies her, she fancies him. You know it's going to happen. You just have to wait it out for it to happen. I would say that it's a fun book. It's very spicy. It's what you'd expect from a cowboy romance. If you want something lighthearted and enjoyable, then I think this would be a good fit for you. But I wouldn't say it's a particularly well-written book, but that's probably not what you're aiming for if you're going for a cowboy romance. So I gave this book 3 stars, and it was fun to buddy read. I used this one, there's only one square that I could use this for, because I'm finding more and more now I can't always find 2 squares to use for books. So this one was for the By the Years square, which is for 2022 when this book was released, and that takes me to 5 out of 10 for that square. After this, I got a graphic novel out from the library, which was recommended by, I think it was Molly, who faithfully comments on all my videos, and she's super lovely. And she recommended, I'm sure it was Molly, she recommended a book called Flamer by Mike Curato, and this is a graphic novel which I could use for my banned graphic novel square. And it's a really lovely coming of age story. So we are following a guy called Aiden. He is in the age between middle school and high school in America. So the schooling system ages are different here, but I'm guessing he's somewhere and he's kind of mid-teens, that sort of age. And he goes to a summer camp every year, and I think that it's set probably in the 90s. It's semi-autobiographical about the author's life, and he goes to this summer camp and he is questioning his sexuality. So I think he notices sometimes he is attracted to certain boys. He's really, really afraid of this becoming known to other boys because he knows that they won't react well. He's making it so, he's trying to make it so like not apparent he's attracted to a certain boy that he makes it really awkward. But also he thinks the idea of being gay is really horrible and really disgusting, and he's like, there's no way I'm gay, that's just gross. But you know that really he is. And so he's really struggling with his identity and who he is, and struggling with the feelings that he has, and some bullying from some other boys. And so this graphic novel was like beautifully done. I can't show you unfortunately the artwork because it's now gone back to the library, but it's his experience of the summer. And also he has a best friend who's a girl who he writes to over the summer, so you get also some letters back and forth between him and his best friend as well, while he's on this journey of self-discovery and trying to find out who he is. So I gave this book 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's obviously a really important topic. I think it would probably be a good book for a teen to read if they were sort of questioning their sexuality as well. So for this book, I used it for my Queer Rainbow challenge and for the questioning square, because he's very much questioning his sexuality, and this takes me up to 4 out of 7 for that square. And I also used it to complete the square of a banned graphic novel. So that was a square that I made up because I think I changed it from webcomics. I didn't really see myself reading a webcomic, and so I wanted to read a graphic novel instead, but I thought I'd read a banned one because I think it's really important that we read and promote banned books. So that's why I chose it for that square. And that is another square that I can colour in for my bingo board, which is great. Book number 8 of 9 is one that is maybe going to be an unpopular opinion. I read My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. This is translated by Anne Goldstein from Italian, and I wouldn't have bought this book, but somebody sent it to me and just said they'd read it and enjoyed it and they think I would like it, which is obviously really kind. I ended up swapping it in to one of my TBR spin prompts, and I listened to it from the library. The narrator was good, but I ended up really not enjoying this book very much at all. So a lot of people give this book 5 stars. Some of my friends online have given this book 5 stars, and it was voted the New York Times best book of the 21st century. So I don't know if it was me and that it wasn't the right time for me to read this book, but I have a rule that if I don't care if my characters get hit by a bus, that I'm not gelling with the book. And I didn't really care if these characters had got hit by a bus. It wouldn't have really upset me. So I'll just actually tell you what the book's about. We're following Leela and Elena, who are growing up in the 1950s in Naples, in quite a deprived community. And it's about their childhood. The very, very opening of the book, they're much older. And then we go back to their childhood. And we learn about a big cast of characters who live in their locality, about school, about they become teenagers in this book. So we learn about kind of crushes and stuff like that. And Leela is very unlikable in the book. Her best friend, she's not particularly kind. They're very competitive. Their friendship's very competitive, especially around schooling. And there's a lot of peril in their neighbourhood between sort of boys are always fighting and stuff like that. And I just did not get into this book. I just don't really like unlikable characters in a book. I don't mind if there's one, but there's lots of unlikable characters in this book. There was no one I was like rooting for or that I really loved in this book. And the writing was excellent. There's nothing against the writing. The writing was really good. This book just wasn't for me. And I kind of knew, I felt that it wouldn't be a me book. Maybe if I'd picked it up at a different time, maybe, but I just ended up kind of speed reading towards the end because I just didn't really care what happened. So I would give this 2.5 stars, and I couldn't use it for any squares. It didn't fit with any of my squares, unfortunately. So I did manage to use it for TBR Spin, like I said, but not for HRCYED. And tell me if you feel the same or if it's just me. I will have to say as well, of all the people who I know who read this book, I don't think any of them went on to continue in the series. So that's interesting as well. The final book that I have to talk about is Confusion by Elizabeth Jane Howard, which is the third book in the Cahill Chronicles, which I've been reading with Aaron from Aaron Read a Book, or Aaron Read a Book, I think we started it about like 6 months ago, maybe, the series, and we're intending to finish it within the year so I can use it for HRCYED. This is a multi-generational saga around the Cahill family, who are upper middle class. They are living in London and the home counties kind of area in the 1930s. So this book, by the end of this book, the war has just finished. So that's the kind of time frame that we are going through. We have at the top of the family, the Duchy and the Brig, who are like the grandparents. They have 4 children, 3 sons, Edward, Rupert and Hugh, and a daughter, Rachel. And then Edward, Rupert and Hugh all have children and wives. Rachel lives with her parents still. And we follow basically different perspectives throughout the series. There'll be chapters from different members of the family, and there are some chapters called The Family where we hear about bits and pieces about everyone. This series has just got better and better for me because there is a family tree at the beginning, but I would say family trees can contain spoilers about births and deaths, so be careful. There are a list of characters so you can remember who different people are, because there is quite a big cast to start off with. Now I know who everyone is, like, completely, because I've been reading about them for 1,500 pages or so. But the series just gets better and better. I think it's a great series. It was written in the 90s, and there are 2 more books left to go before we've completed the series. It is really nice doing it like this because I'm a terrible person for starting book 1, buying book 1, and then kind of fizzling out with series. Not because I don't like them, but just because I just have so much choice of what to read. So doing it like this as a buddy read, like we did with the Boudica books, is great because we know that every other month or so we'll be reading the next book, which is really nice. So this was a 4.75 star for me. Really loved it. I can use it for 1 square, which is the series square. This is the 3rd in the series, as I said, so I have done 3 out of 5 for that square for HRCYED. So I think I had a pretty good month, especially because the month hasn't even finished yet. Today it's the 29th of December, and like I said, I am on the verge of finishing more books. So that's great. One thing I do have to adjust is for the blurbed books square. This one I had already put in. The main blurbed book was going to be These Days by Lucy Caldwell, and it was blurbed by Tracy Chevalier, which I'd read a book by, Hilary Mantel, and also Louise O'Neill. So that was going to be my plan for that square. So I'll just insert a picture showing my plan. However, the Hilary Mantel book that I planned reading was this one, which I ended up DNFing quite early on. Because of that, it kind of meant that I had to rethink that whole square. So I have decided to scrap that square progress so far, and I am changing the book. So the main book, rather than having Lucy Caldwell, I'm going to change that to The Ministry of Time, which I'm currently listening to So I won't put that on the squares until I wrap up next month. So that one, this book, it's a book about her writing for the London Review of Books. So it's mainly book reviews, and I haven't read the books. And I hadn't read the books that she'd reviewed so far, and they're very in-depth reviews. And she's brilliant at writing, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't for me. So that square is scrapped. So now I have to move These Days by Lucy Caldwell and The Glassmaker by Tracy Chevalier. And I don't actually have any squares to move them to, any prompts that they will also fulfill. So I'm just going to have to take them out of that one. So I did use them for like one other prompt initially, but I'm just going to have to take them out of the Blurbed Books square and start again with that one. But never mind. So anyhow, that is my wrap up for the month of December. And let me know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts were, what you're reading, any recommendations, or just leave me an emoji to say that you've been here. And I will be back really soon, like I said, with my best books of the year and my best booktubers of the year. So hope you're having a lovely week, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.